Hey, it's been a minute since we talked last, I know. Been out of town, had to go visit my mom. Actually, the majority of this video had already been taken care of before I ended up having to leave. See, there was some bad weather coming in, had to go home visit mom, and now we're back. Unfortunately, insomnia is a bitch, had to get some sleep, but now we're here. So I figured we would reconvene and have a moment to talk about Tarkov and the carousel. For those of you that don't understand the carousel is what we are all riding on. Every single wipe cycle, we ride on the carousel together. I bet you guys didn't know that. The carousel is a process by which we go through loving and adoring the wipe and thinking that the devs are absolutely amazing, to going toward where we are now, where things are a little bit sort of kind of okay, but we're starting to kind of like pick away at the little bits and finding all the little chinks in the armor, finding the issues, if you will, and then cheating and exploiting and popularizing all of that seems to start going into the stratosphere. Eventually what happens is we all on the carousel transition into the phase where at about, I'd say 2 to 3 weeks, the game sucks again and everyone starts complaining about everything that they possibly can. Well, I'm here to tell you that this video is all about the cheaty, exploity stuff that people have a tendency to do, because it is wild, actually. This is more informative than it's going to be a complaint. It's more or less just to draw attention to the fact that this kind of stuff is going on. This video is sponsored by Exter. Exter is known for creating the world's first trackable wallet, and now they are on a mission to expand all of our day-to-day carry essentials. Exter's wallets are half the size of conventional, choose an iPhone for comparison, offer a very, very slimline and sleek design, yet still manage to hold 12 cards plus cash and have built-in RFID protection, making sure that things like data skimming and wireless data transmission of your personal information from your own credit cards isn't something that people can steal from you. But the absolute coolest feature of these wallets is this little switchblade button at the bottom. I don't even know what they call this thing, but it is cool. See all these little cards here at the top? If you push this button, they just pop right out in a nice little cascade, sticking right up there for you so that you can pull out whichever one you want and then slide them back in when you're done. Pretty sweet. And I actually like this aluminum one a lot because of this expansion area. This little belt on the back allows you to slide additional cards in and out of the back plate. Really, really, really sleek. So check out my link in the description below and get yourself up to 50% off plus a cash clip absolutely free by using code Onepeg on checkout. Once again, I'd love to thank the folks over at Exter for sponsoring this video. Thank you guys so very much. I genuinely appreciate it. This product is really, really cool. Thank you. For those of you that haven't been noticing, there's some little indicators, some visual stuff that you guys will notice in certain sections of the screen that I can draw your attention to. So that way, if you happen to come across this in your own raids until BSG can hopefully get this thing roped in a little bit, you'll be able to kind of counteract it. Last week, Battle State Games in their infinite wisdom decided that they were finally going to give us an update on the cheating situation. If you remember a little while back, sometime I think last year, Goatmoth did a video talking about how there was this wiggle where people would kind of like wiggle at each other through walls. When they had walls, they could see the wireframes of all the other people playing, and how prevalent that was in Tarkov. That's still kind of a thing, and we have a lot of stuff that we can show here. But they said from December 27th to January 12th, with the support of BattlEye Anti-Cheat, more than 11,000 cheaters have been banned and escaped from Tarkov. So if we're looking at this in a period of about 10 days, let's say 2 weeks, give or take, they banned 11,000 accounts. Now, I don't know how you guys are with math, if you're any good at it or not, but let's say that these are the $40 accounts, and they aren't, by the way, because an awful lot of this stuff gets sold through third-party means. A lot of these accounts that get handed out are done so with stolen credit card information or are done on third-party websites for the cheap, where they have bulk keys that they sell for like $3 and $4 a piece. In fact, if you want a little fun experiment and you can manage to figure it out, if you can somehow make your IP address through an endpoint VPN appear in Russia, you get a significant discount because they convert to local currency, and in paying in rubles, you pay a lot less than the US dollar equivalent. Anyway, 11,000 cheaters by the numbers is almost 450,000 bucks if you want to take a look at that. Yeah, so I figure at worst case scenario, if they were really done on the cheap, it's somewhere around 50 grand in account sales just from the banned cheaters, assuming that they ended up rebuying their accounts. It's probably closer in reality to somewhere around 2 to 250,000, which we need them to really punch these numbers up, because if BSG is going to rent out another gun range for us at the next TwitchCon so that we can all go shoot guns and run over a Honda Civic with a tank, we streamers definitely need to see some more sales out of y'all cheaters. So if you're going to be doing this, get the rebuy cycle going a little bit faster for us, will you, boys? Thanks so much. Now, this next clip is not my original work. I actually don't know who the original person was that did this, but both Tiggs and Smitty Stone ended up posting it on their social media accounts. It depicts Enderman from Minecraft picking up items and then kind of zipping off into the ether. At the end of this, though, there is this section where you can see the console scrolling, and this is the important part, because the prevalence now that we've been able to see with actual proof in the console screen are people using what's called a vacuum cheat. The idea is that they are able to pinpoint what individual pieces of loot they want on the map, anything that's considered a valuable, a Bitcoin, a GP coin, some of the higher end barter items, those kinds of things. They have the ability to select where those are, and through a script, they can bring those items to themselves in their own inventory. They can just grab them all, put them in a pile on the ground if they want to, or zip them directly into their own inventory instantaneously and just kind of organize that as they would, and then leave the raid. So here's the indicator, by the way. If you end up seeing a situation where there's a lot of packet loss all of a sudden, you see in the upper right-hand corner that there's a bit of lag going on. You start seeing things like act kind of wonky, and you start like rubber banding around, or you see a packet loss icon in the corner. Just hit the little tilde button on your keyboard there, and open up the console. If you start seeing that stuff scrolling on the screen, that is a cheater vacuuming up all of the valuable loot on the map, and you should probably try to get out, because the likelihood that the server is going to crash is pretty high. Given the amount of movement that's going on with the amount of items that are now moving all of a sudden, that is an awful lot of information that's being flooded to the server, and the server's trying to reconcile all that, and it bogs the server down. In a lot of situations, a lot of times the server ends up crashing. They basically end up doing a bit of an info dump that causes the server to kind of crawl to a halt, and it hurts itself and falls on its own knees, and it doesn't have a life alert, so it can't really get the help that it needs. If you can get out, I would get out. The last thing that you want to have happen is you run into that same guy, and he ends up doing a little rage cheat and shoot you in the face and cost you your gear kit. You know what I mean? What else they will do is they will run into a raid. They go into a raid like on labs or whatnot. They will try to identify whether or not there's any key cards, for instance, on the lab raid. And if there isn't one, they just kill themselves right away. They do an auto disconnect and then go back in, which is why we start looking at things like stat screens, right? Now, there are back and forth on this in terms of whether or not people are legit or not. If you go to Tarkov, there will be people that post these pieces of information. They will show the stat screens for everyone and say, oh, this guy's a cheater, that guy's a cheater. And there are blatant ones. There's like stuff where there's like over 300 KD and some of these guys. Now, scavs count as part of your KD, don't get me wrong, but when you have a guy that's got like sub 100 raids and he's got 300 KD and his account is 250 hours or less, 15 hours. I've seen screenshots of guys that have had accounts that lasted 4 minutes and then ended up having their profile pulled to see like some just absurd stats. That kind of stuff is really blatant. Now, obviously, if you're in some weird gray area, you could just look like a pretty good gamer. But there are other instances where it's on the other end. Guys that have like a 0.3 KD and they've got under 100 raids and 27 of them are AWOLs, meaning they disconnected from the raid on purpose. In those cases, that's when you start raising an eyebrow. And then you start following things like on the market, where you see that they have a 65 market rating after 2 weeks. And I'm sorry, I realize that there are people that play this game an awful lot, but when you're following certain accounts and you start looking at like other things that they're doing, you start recognizing certain patterns of people that are cheating. What about this screen cap from Nixia? Level 7, 4.5 hours online, 12 hours account lifetime. He's got a 14.5 KD. Now, this looks like it's on the higher end of legit until you look at his achievements and see that he's seen Lightkeeper. And the problem is that, once again, the big issue here is time. It's not so much that the cheaters exist. There's no way to wipe them all out. It is impossible. The problem is time. Some of these accounts that we've been pulling, where you can see the stats are pretty blatant, have hours in the 1500s. They've been around for multiple wipe durations at this point and still haven't been caught. And when you are able to see them on the stat screen and be like, well, that is kind of wild. Why isn't that getting looked into a bit more than it is? We don't really have answers for that. The biggest issue here is the amount of time it takes between detection and removal of the cheater. See, because it gives them enough time on the RMT side, it gives them enough time to become profitable. If you buy an account for $40, let's say, and that account is allowed to exist for even 2 days or a day, the amount of churn that you're able to generate in monetary earnings in the form of items that you can sell on third-party sites, or in the form of just straight-up rubles that you can then hand off to people in multiple rounds that they can gamma container or whatever. The amount of churn that you're able to generate over that course of period of time is going to generate more than the $40 or $45 by leaps and bounds more if it's allowed to exist for more than just a few hours to a day. The biggest issue here is that they need to detect and remove the accounts that are infringing on this stuff a whole lot faster than they are before the amount of damage that's getting done gets done, and they're just not doing that. But there is another aspect of this that really deserves to be mentioned in the whole cheating vein, and that is exploits. See, since the game came out with vaulting has been something that has been horribly bugged. And not only are there people that are vaulting over walls and then suddenly just falling through the geometry into a death wall underneath the map, but it gets even more involved than that. If you go to Shoreline, for instance, and you're able to kind of just run up against doorways and corners of window boxes, you can vault straight through the windows without breaking any glass at all. And every single loot room on the whole of the Shoreline Resort is now something that anyone can get into at any point in time if they want to. The most egregious of all of these window boxes that people are vaulting through is on Streets of Tarkov, because the marked room on Streets of Tarkov is something where people are jumping up on the roof and they're able to vault through the window, through the slats in the wood, and clip their character through not only the wall there, and get all the loot, obviously, but they can clip back through the same window. Or what's even worse are people that are able to hop up on the camera and then on top of the I guess, wardrobe cabinet or whatever that's next to it, and which in turn, when they do that, clips them up in through the ceiling onto the floor above, where they can then just walk downstairs. Unfortunately, this then turns into meme clip moments where content creators start using this exploit to their advantage and other exploits like it. So that way, instead of needing keys, they then popularize the issue by showing people that you can get to not only the loot, but in the cases of this clip from Desmond, you can notice that he hears a guy that's running around outside, tries to shoot him through the door, misses, and then this happens.
He's so confused. Dude, this guy literally just got turbo hacked.
Now, it goes without saying that when you look at stuff like this is obvious engagement bait. The entire point here is that not only do you laugh about it and have a great chuckle on stream, but then you create a Twitch clip out of it and then post that stuff to places like Twitter and Instagram and other places to try and generate you some clout, which then sends you off. And then, of course, the guys that don't give a fuck about exploits end up having a good laugh about it. And then the purists over on the other side, guys that tend to be on the side of the fence that I'm on, we tend to kind of look at that and roll our eyes a little bit like, man, you didn't really have to do that. You could have just shown that to the devs kind of thing. But none of those guys that make those kinds of clips want to hear that shit from me. So I'm not going to sit here and try and bitch. The people are going to make the content that they want to make. It is what it is. Personally, I look at abusing exploits like this as being part of the problem when it comes to the game as a whole. I'm not going to sit here and try and whine about it. It doesn't make any sense. I'm not going to change anything. It's just that when I look at stuff like this, I don't personally agree with the angle, the approach, the take in popularizing certain exploits like this. I don't think it ends up adding to anything other than being part of the issue. And when you're doing it in order to be able to get kills, if you're clipping through windows and clipping through places that you otherwise shouldn't be able to get through, it starts creating problems with the gameplay cycle. Consider that if I knew that someone were in a room that they shouldn't be in, or if they were behind a key door, let's say they unlocked the door and got in, but I didn't actually hear them go through a window and out a second floor window on Shoreline Resort because they were able to vault clip through it. Having not realized this, no breaking glass or anything, that creates a moment where somebody's able to make a play on me where the audio cues didn't match up with where they were positionally. See, I could hear them maybe go over the side and then hit their legs on the ground, or, something like that, and then I'm going to scratch my head like, what the hell was that? And try to make that counterplay otherwise, but the audio wouldn't have lined up at all. It wouldn't have made a whole lot of sense depending on the room that I knew that we were engaging engaging people in. It throws curveballs and makes for head scratcher situations where things don't make logical sense given how the game is supposed to work, which then causes all kinds of other problems. So for me, popularizing this kind of stuff starts creating like really confusing moments and messes up the gameplay cycle in a way that is unintended by the devs. And if I'm somebody that's trying to be a little bit of a purist, I know I'm a little bit of a nag. I always look at it in terms of what the game devs intend. And in this case, that is not what the game devs intend. So if it were me, I stay away from it. Other people aren't going to. I just don't think that popularizing it and not having made bug reports to kind of go along with that at the very least is something that people should be doing. I don't know. Hot take being what it is, whatever. I'm just some boomer on the internet. Don't mind me. There is, however, the argument that doing this kind of stuff and popularizing it puts a light and lights the fire under the ass of the devs and tries to get them to do something about the problem faster. And of course, we know that through the time frame that BSG has had in order to be able to fix certain bugs, like vertical audio, we know that BSG hasn't had a fantastic track record of fixing those things in a timely manner, regardless of how widespread or popularized those bugs have become. Only if it is absolutely game-breaking, like falling through the world and then force disconnecting to level your strength really, 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 really fast, which happened like 3 years ago. That was the only time I ever saw them work faster than, like, I don't know, a 6-month cycle to fix some major issue. Other than that, though, they tend to not really care whether or not a bug is really widespread or popularized. They kind of just go, I mean, shit, they released this hitbox system with armor and whatnot, and right now we know that it depends on whether or not you register a hit to the aramid plate of the aramid section of a piece of armor if you're looking a certain way.
Perfect.
Same situation.
No aramid damage. Get a new plate.
No
in.
aramid damage.
Look down more. There you go.
Aramid.
God damn it, Tower, the fucking shape of the goddamn character, fix it.
So yeah, I don't know what the answer is. Although I do need to take care of this like little pimply deal that I got working on my forehead. But I will be sure to report on anything and everything that changes with this. My hope is that BSG is going to be able to do something about this. My recommendation for you all, if you're running around in Tarkov right now, is to try not to bring in your best stuff. Bring something that is relatively effective. A halfway decent rifle with some good-ish ammo in it, and some really like mid-level stuff. Build yourself out in a way where you can do damage, but you're not going to be looked at as a loot pinata. Because if you start running around with like the Altons and all that other stuff, it's very likely that you are going to end up getting mowed down. Yes, chest armor right now is really weird and really broken, and certain combinations of chest armor seem like they are mega absorbative and just like eat rounds, and other stuff doesn't, but then none of that seems to be affected whatsoever when it comes to the head hitbox. And as we all know, the rage cheaters love to just shoot you in the face. So if I were y'all, I would take in combo kits of stuff that is high effective in damage, but maybe isn't like the best recoil or best ergo or best armoring build that you could possibly manage. Try and bring in some mid-grade stuff where you're going to be like, all right, yeah, it's just some average dude gamer. It's really not like worth zipping over to and taking all of their stuff and then walking out. You know, you start bringing in like meta mutants and M4s and all that stuff, and yeah, you're just going to get destroyed. But yeah, anyway, thanks so much for coming and checking out the video. I love y'all. Hopefully this was relatively informative and somewhat entertaining. If you guys enjoy the content, we do this kind of stuff all the time, you could sub the channel here. That would be really, really cool. In the meantime, though, I will be live as soon as this video is up. We're running a little bit late today, but, you know, like I said, I just got in town, so we're going to do that, and I will see you in the next one in the meantime. All right, thanks so much.